Hello, sportsmen. You know, we haven't heard from Governor Engler in a while about hunting and fishing issues, but this week was a great one. He signed the Fishermen's Anti-Harassment Bill. That was monumental in itself, but Kyle Randall from the Michigan Sportsman Congress had a little chat with him afterwards. He came out with his stand on the bear referendum. We have this and a lot more, so stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night, and you're watching The Practical Sportsman.
Well, first, Kyle, let me thank you and the Congress for helping to get this legislation passed. I know that there was some confusion initially. There was a report that had been broadcast. They thought these were the Engler harassment bills, not the Angler harassment bills that were being signed, and there was a lot of interest in that. But no, those are on the fall agenda, but very hopeful that we'll get those passed with a minimum of dissent. We are, though, signing this legislation, which has been described as the angler harassment legislation. Really is the Michigan Fisherman Rights Act, and this will protect the rights of more than 2 million of our residents and tourists who fish in Michigan each year. And I think anyone who knows Michigan, and we've got the Brenke Fish Ladder behind us, but know that this is a state blessed with natural resources, a state where outdoor activities have always been central. I mean, the early days of Michigan, before it was a state, when it was a territory, it was always described as a place blessed with resources. And throughout our history, our legacy has been that Michigan is a place to go for outdoor recreation, for opportunity to enjoy nature, to get away from it. And John Volker's work, he would be very proud today, I think, the noted trout fisherman who wrote so eloquently about Michigan's waters. And yet we have had a problem. It's rather amazing to me, but there have been a number of extremist animal rights groups who've stated their intention and in fact have acted on that to bother people who fish as a demonstration to their objection to sport fishing.
What Governor Engler is referring to is the harassment of fishermen by PETA, a group that calls themselves the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. They have declared war on fishermen, not by protesting at fish markets or at seafood restaurants. Their campaign is directed at the men, women, and kids who fish for fun and eat what they catch. Now, their plan calls for interference and harassment of fishermen, which Governor Engler and the state legislature says will not be happening in our state. Fishing is not an exclusive activity that only a few people participate in.
It really is a sport for everyone, and it's been an enormous economic benefit as well to our communities, about $2 billion per year. This legislation, when I sign it, means effective July 1 that anybody fishing in the Great Lakes state will have lawful recourse against people who would prevent them from enjoying their sport. And Senator Geek and Representative Jay and the members of the House and Senate who unanimously worked on this legislation did a very good job. Under what this means is, under the law, a person would be prohibited from obstructing or interfering in the lawful taking of fish or other aquatic species. In other words, you just can't get in the way. And if you knowingly do so, it's a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 93 days in jail or a fine up to $1,000. Second offenders could even face a year in jail. A year in jail probably instead be placed in community service cleaning up riverbanks for the entire year would be the appropriate punishment. So these are laws. Kay Cool's department, the Natural Resource Department, Minnie Cook, everybody's worked to get these passed. Along with the MUCC, we have the Michigan Sportsman's Congress who also played a key role, and we thank them for that leadership. And let me turn this over to Bob Geek for a couple of comments. He's going to make some observations, and I know that the one thing I'd just say is that with this legislation in place, we can spend a lot more time worrying about the largemouth bass than the bigmouth protesters. So I'm pleased to be able to sign this today. Thank you very much.
You know, I couldn't have said that better myself. The governor made this address along the banks of the Grand River as it flows through Lansing, not far from the state capitol. The Grand River flows all the way to Lake Michigan, coming out at Grand Haven, and that's how salmon and steelhead trout get into the Grand River. Now in the fall, some of these Great Lakes fish come upstream to spawn. They can make it all the way to the state capitol because of the fish ladders along the way. What gets them around the rapids, like in Lansing here at the Brenke Fish Ladder downtown, it lets these fish jump from pool to pool. Otherwise, they couldn't get upstream. And at this time of year, people do fish along the Grand, including this chap using a basic Zebco 202. Doesn't take fancy equipment to catch most Michigan fish. A lot of newcomers to fishing find local rivers and ponds a good place to relax and learn the sport. Now, this guy caught a little bullhead catfish. Fun to catch, good to eat. Just imagine the impact on fishing if animal rights activists could harass fishermen like this, call them names, yell at them, say it's free speech. Well, that's why Senator Robert Geek introduced a bill to make harassment of fishermen illegal, not just sport fishermen, but commercial fishermen as well. Kyle Randall from the Michigan Sportsman Congress was on hand Monday afternoon, along with a group of very interested parties, including our new DNR director, K.L. Kuhl, who you'll hear from on next week's show. But the news is, this week, that the bill was signed, which shows that sportsmen have many, many friends in the legislature, and we have a big supporter in the governor's office, too. This anti-harassment bill for fishermen is one problem out of the way. The next challenge is the referendum on bear hunting. This could be facing the public in November and is a major concern among sportsmen's groups.